Government must expand the GRA tax portal to include regional tax portals for SMEs with details on all taxes and levies applicable in that region and where they could lodge complaints. So it's always one way. The institutions are always telling entrepreneurs what to do, how you have to do this. But clearly, the information as to how to even get to have knowledge about how to go about these things isn't there. 2, so if you go through something, an experience that you don't like, there is no other way to reach them and lodge your complaints. Please, do we get it? Yes. And that's not part of building an inclusive society. The institutions are supposed to serve as enablers. They are not supposed to be or to become barriers to entrepreneurial growth. So that's how come we are asking governments to look at that. Now, government has to reduce the tax burden by half for SMEs and, of course, widen the tax nets in all the regions so that it's not just few entrepreneurs who are always paying these taxes. New registration certificates by the Office of the Registrar of Companies should have a one-time 5-year tax holiday certification for startups to avoid duplication and cut down on bureaucracy and extortion as well as corruption. So it should be easier. So let's say Sam wants to register his company. Once Sam gets to the Office of the Registrar of Companies and registers the business or does it through the online portal, we believe that there should be some form of harmony or synergy amongst the Office of the Registrar of Companies and then the other regulatory bodies. So if this person is going into a food business, what are the appropriate agencies that this person needs to connect to? So can't we have one certificate that actually has it that all these things have been checked by the institutions so that this person doesn't have to get one particular license, go and get another license, which of course isn't healthy for entrepreneurship. Now, we also need to deregulate the financial sector with incentives to allow for more private financial institutions and banks at a regional level to meet the growing financial needs of SMEs. How many government banks have deviated from their core purpose? How many? Or how many are doing the right, whatever they were set out to do, they are doing the same things. Now, if you even look at our financial sector, you realize that almost all the banks have the same packages. Then again, you also have lots of investors or financial institutions that want to come in. But even just look at the minimum amount of money you need in order to operate a financial institution in the country. So we need deregulation. Now, we are also advising governments to privatize all state-owned enterprises in the regions with the least cost to ensure efficiency and productivity. When an entrepreneur makes a mistake, the entrepreneur gets punished. When government makes a mistake and the ventures are unproductive, who punishes government? Nobody. So why don't we encourage government to privatize all these state institutions? Of course, in regions where the ease of doing business or entrepreneurship isn't favorable. Because if businesses are going to fail in that region, why should government be there? And government will do so always by plundering you, taking taxes, and using it to support itself, even when it's weak. Now, we're also saying we should review Ghana's 2019 MSME policy by harnessing indigenous knowledge and history of how traditional societies advanced entrepreneurially, the role of indigenous institutions and how the institutions could be safeguarded in the age of modernity, and enforce these at a regional level. So look at the Asian tigers, right? Look at Japan. Technology is on the rise, doing lots of things, catching up with modernity, but they do not throw away their indigenous institutions. So while we may want to adopt, we shouldn't do it blindly. We should revisit our history as well. Now, I know we haven't paid attention to this very one, but if I say it, I'm sure maybe you should pick up your phones and then you also do a check. Most of the websites of these government institutions aren't functioning properly and they are not secured. We are asking government to ensure that the websites of its institutions are functional and properly secured. Now, we are also asking government to progressively cut down on government spending, which fuels inflation. Of course, from 22.8%, as at the time we compiled this report, that's somewhere June 2024, to 10% by end of December 2024 to avoid the purchasing power of entrepreneurs and consumers. So if you had 500,000 cedis and it could afford you a machine as at, let's say, the beginning of the year, this time around, if you go there, you won't be able to get that same thing. Why? Because inflation is eating up lots of funds owned by entrepreneurs. We hope you all join in our efforts to educate, inspire, and engage policymakers to bring about real entrepreneurial reforms for prosperity and sustainable economic growth. In most cases, when we are in governments, we think we would be in government forever. But in actual sense, we would all retire. And our place would be the private sector. So if you're in a position to fix it and you don't fix it now, you would join the private sector one day. And we would all keep complaining about the problem and keep comparing ourselves to the Western countries. And nothing would happen.